Hello, welcome to this very special edition of the Pace Report, reporting live at the 11th Annual Jersey City Jazz Festival here at Exchange Place, here in downtown Jersey City, New Jersey. Tonight here on the Pace Report, I'm honored to profile Zaccai Curtis, half of the Curtis Brothers Quartet. And tonight they're playing music from Zaccai's brand new record, Cubop Lives, in which Zaccai Curtis pays homage to the great Afro-Cuban as well as Black American music composers ranging from Kenny Dorham, Thelonious Monk, Ray Bryant, Dizzy Gillespie, Hilton Ruiz, as well as Noro Morales, just to name the many few. Now on this album there are 17 compositions, but what he did was he shortened these songs and these compositions and he revisited them to make sure that they have another contemporary twist to new ears that are listening to these songs. We had a chance to sit down and break bread to talk about, one, the record label, Truth Revolution Records, as well as we break bread and talk about the direction of Afro-Cuban as well as Black American music moving forward. Also, we sit down and reflect on one of his heroes, the great Bud Powell. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a highlight of the Curtis Brothers Quartet, live at this year's 11th Annual Jersey City Jazz Festival, presented by riverviewjazz.org, live here in downtown Jersey City, New Jersey, here at Exchange Place, here on the Pace Report. You know, third time's a charm, brother. Thank you again for sitting down. I know you've been very busy, man. Cindy Blackman, Lakeisha Benjamin, and then you're doing this project, Cubop Lives. This is a very important record because, one, you're reintroducing the world to the origins of Afro-Cuban music. But what you did was you took some classics and standards and some of your originals and put a different twist to it.
Wow, that's it. That's it. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I kind of just took that music that they played in the 40s and addressed it in a little bit of a different way. That's it. And then what I tried to add to that music was I picked different songs that weren't played, and I changed the style. Like Mooch to Mooch, it's usually fast, and we played it cha-cha. So like there's little things like that. We change. Every single song is slightly different than the way somebody else did in the past.
Now before we go even further, explain to my viewers where the origins of Afro-Cuban music began.
All right, I'll do my best. Afro-Cuban music, Afro-Cuban jazz particularly, is what I call the roots of what I play. And the reason why that is because Machito, Mario Bausa, they called their music Afro-Cuban jazz, or they called their music Machito and the Afro-Cubans. That was his the band name. So it's an ode to that, and I've always said that about my music. I play a style of Cubop and Afro-Cuban jazz. Afro-Cuban music is the Cuban music, Cuba. But once they stylized and they said this is our way of playing it in the States over here, and they got together with a lot of different musicians that were already really changing the scene, like Chano Pozo, Dizzy Gillespie, many others, and Howard McGee, Charlie Parker. A little later on, they were changing the music. They were really mixing it together. So you had this this thing that was birthed that I call Cubop, and Cubop was started by Mario Bausa and Machito. And that was in the early 40s. So this style of music is pretty early when it comes to jazz fusions. And then after that, kind of opened up the world for different types of jazz fusion to happen.
Now, all of this was taking place relatively in the late 40s, early 1950s, but there were many different styles of Afro-Cuban music in the Caribbean that got exposed. You want to elaborate on that also?
So Afro-Cuban music, or there's a lot of Afro-Caribbean music.
Afro-Caribbean, right.
Yeah.
Afro-Caribbean.
So in fact, like you're going to find Sidney Bechet in the 30s playing music from Dominican Republic, from Haiti, and he was doing. So there's a lot of people that were playing music from the Caribbean, from Brazil and things like that. But the thing that made it different than Cubop music was you had original composition. They were jazz tunes that had the undertones and the concepts of Afro-Cuban actually drumming, Afro-Cuban drumming. And you have a lot of things that happened during that time that were, to me, mind-blowing on how they put it together, which was like you had even these Afro-Cuban patterns that were being played on the drum set was swung. You had a conga player playing straight, right there, mixed together. So in my mind, I'm like, how does that work? But when you listen to it, it makes perfect sense. So it's hard to kind of like pick and choose. It was vast. People were doing everything there, and then you also had what's the singer, Cab Calloway. He has an album. He has a track, a single, Conga Kunga or something like that, and that predates the Cubop craze in the 40s. That's in the 30s. So there's a lot of people were doing different things and they were experimenting. But that sound that came out in the 40s and that late 40s, that particular sound, that's what I focused on. That was like my main focus. But Afro-Cuban music was all over the place. Caribbean music, Puerto Rican music. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York. So it was pretty mixed up.
This album is very unique in that there's 17 songs. I wanted to know how you were able to put, because I know there's a lot of songs you left off too.
Yeah.
How did you put this record together?
I wanted to do a double CD. I wanted to do all these songs here that we recorded. That's like half the album, or maybe 3/4 the album. Then I wanted to do a bunch of originals, and like I had a couple ideas of bringing in some guest artists to play these originals and to complement that music. But we didn't get to it, so maybe that can be helped for a future album. But for this album, what you're getting is kind of like the songbook that we created over the last 5 to 10 years of playing these songs. They were developed naturally. Sometimes I wouldn't even have a chart. The musicians would just know the song, and we developed like we play Salt Peanuts, which didn't make it onto the record, and that was done through, we took all of the different interludes that Dizzy Gillespie does from different albums, and we put them all into one arrangement. So we did things like that. Or there's an album on there, there's a song on there called Jazzin'. Jazz and Hilton Ruiz wrote it. That was one of my first mentors. And Hilton, incredible bebop piano player, recorded that song just solo piano. So there's no recording of that with a band that he did. So I decided to arrange that for the band. So in a way, that's kind of the...
Tell everybody who's on this record.
So you have Willie Martinez playing timbales. He's an amazing timbalero, drummer, and singer. And you have Camilo Molina, a genius percussionist. Reinaldo de Jesus, also another amazing percussionist. He's on bongos and bells. Camilo's playing congas. And then, of course, Luques Curtis on bass. And I'm playing piano.
brother have done something that not too many jazz guys, especially on the business side, have done. Truth Revolution Records. And you know, I think of guys like Charlie Mingus. I think of guys like the record label. God, I'm having a mind fart right now. The record label with Stanley Cowell and Charles Tolliver, Max Roach. The independent route was something that, one, you had artistic control and you kept the product, but also you helped the musician. Why did you guys decide to form this label? And this label's been going on for like over a decade.
Yeah. That had a lot to do with my mentors. So Hilton Maurice being my first mentor, made sure that I created a publishing company. And that publishing company is named Truth Revolution Publishing. And I didn't pick that name. In fact, the people that picked the name, because I started stamping my music because I remember one time I asked Joe Ford for a chart of today's nights, and at the bottom he had a stamp of Joe Ford Publishing, whatever, his publishing company, I forget what it was, and I saw it and I was like, man, that's awesome. So when I wanted to have that, and I had a friend make a logo for me, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was my publishing company. And so when I had friends that wanted to release records, because we started to release records, because I would ask questions to people like Chembo, Cornell. A lot of people that I knew in my circle were releasing independently, including Brian Lynch, Ralph Peterson. All of those musicians were releasing independently. And I asked a bunch of my mentors about it. They said, no, do it by yourself. So I was on a mission. Asked questions, started releasing it, and I just put the stamp on there, you know. And then somebody would say, hey, I want to release on your label. And I said, what label? I said, the label you have on your record. And I was like, oh, that's my publishing company. I don't care. I don't want that on my. So we started releasing other people's albums, but it started with a friend of mine, Giovanni Almonte. He did an amazing album, High versus Low. And then Chris Allen, and that really began it. Chris Allen, Nick Roseborough, and we just started releasing music together under the same umbrella. And then Truth Revolution ended up being the name of the company. Of course.
I mean, I'm just looking at the artists that have recorded and left content on your label. How are you and your brother handling all this? And also, you know, at the festival, your father's, you know, he's the one, he's out here distributing the CDs. It's truly a family affair.
It is. Yeah, he's also filming, right? He's always filming something. But now it's a little different than it was before. It was chaotic. You just had to learn as you go, trial by fire. And then over time, you learn the tricks, you ask questions, and you kind of get it a little more regimented and organized. That's where we are right now. We have a great team, some incredible interns. Daryl Yoakley is working with me, trying to think of all the people that are involved. Pedro Milan Jimenez, he's out in Florida, he's our marketer. We have all types. We have a warehouse person. It's my brother. My brother does the warehouse stuff. My older brother, I don't think you've met him, plays piano. Damien, he's doing a lot of the warehouse and sending. We also have somebody helping out with merch. So I have a lot of help. It's not just me doing it, and I couldn't do it without the help of the musicians. And almost all of us are musicians, and the artists help out quite a bit. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, because they want to move their product, which is helping you move. Is the streaming aspect helping or hurting the label, or do you find that people, because like me, I want a hardcore copy. What do you find in balance in?
I used to get rid of 1,000 records when we first started. We used to have to order a second 1,000 records. Now, I mean, we order 500 and half of them are sitting there. But we are being streamed more. So the streaming, I'm not going to say the streaming is not happening. I don't want to say that. What I want to say is it's changed quite a bit. The way people consume music is different. But I feel that, you know, the place where it is right now is in the live performances.
Always has been.
It's in the live performances more than ever. So we're trying to get, right now, we're trying to get a booking wing inside the record label. We get a booking wing in there, then we can kind of use that as part of the kind of a new arm or a new component to an artist releasing a record.
Cindy and playing with Lakeisha. What's that like?
It's amazing. You get to see how music can flow, especially from somebody else's mind. And their minds in particular, completely different, but they have their own voices that are being pushed. Like, I think I was mentioning before about Cindy. Cindy has a vision, and for like the past decade, we've been trying to capture her vision and her sound. But at the same time, she allows us to have our own voice, which gives a little bit of a different mix, each one of us that comes to the table. And it's amazing to see how this grows, and her sound, her harmonies, rhythms, and then of course the language that we have when I comp and I play along with the drums, because to me, everybody is an extension of the drummer. So especially when the drummer's the leader of the band, you feel that more than anywhere, anytime else.
And Lakeisha I've always seen her play. She's always thought outside the box, and her last couple of projects have really stretched, continue to stretch. How is a musician, how is it working under her?
It's great. It's great. We had a lot of fun going on tours, playing so many different venues, and I mean, she brings it 110% every single time. Like you can feel it. You can feel it. That's what she loves to do. That's what she was born to do. So again, we're trying to capture her voice, each band member, every time we play. And she has a vast, variety of music, because she does a lot of R&B music. She does a lot of funk, and then she's swinging. And so you got to be able to tap into each, different area of music just to keep up with her.
You and your brother.
He's the worst. I'm gonna talk about him.
A musical family, and I think it's beautiful what you guys have. I mean, you guys have kids, so your nieces and nephews are seeing what's the next generation supposed to do. What was it like growing up in a house where he's playing this gigantic, big-ass bass and you're playing piano? What was that like growing up?
It was fun. I mean, of course, it was brotherly, so all the brotherly stuff is added in there, and we're too young to figure it out. But we had a lot of fun with the different.
Come on. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
It's all right.
So we had a lot of fun with the different bands that we were involved in, and the different ensembles we grew up with. And then as we got older, we kind of had a similar vision musically. So we listened to a lot of the same music.
Really? How did you come into the piano, and what were some of the things musically, and some of the things musically now that you're envisioning as a pianist and composer and band leader?
Yeah. Well, I started off playing classical music and then R&B music. And then over time, I really fell in love with the percussion aspect of the piano. Especially in college, I realized it was a different angle to it, like a different dimension. That percussive access, that percussion concept, it actually came from me trying to get the percussive language of people like Bud Powell. Percussive language, McCoy Tyner. McCoy Tyner has always been like my, the person that I would reach out for. And then of course, you find all these other tons of great musicians. You can't name a pianist I don't like. And then of course, Eddie Palmieri and Charlie Palmieri, the two brothers that play piano, Latin music. And then all the percussion elements of Latin music and funk. They're kind of like my roots, like when it comes to it. And then of course, I love harmony. I always love harmony, like the theory of harmony. And I just think that there's different dimensions, and you can strengthen each one depending on what you're working on and what you're going for. So that's been my progression with the instrument. When I found out you can grab the sound, I really listening to these incredible musicians like Bud Powell, like Wynton Kelly and Bill Evans, and I started to mix everything together.
shedding. What advice do you give as an educator and as a musician to the young generation as far as shedding? Because, you know, I do a lot of editing to make sure that people get to see, and that's shedding too, in much respect. What do you do? Because, I mean, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on composition. In fact, I just talked to Brother Handy. He said that he's composing for...
Yeah, he's a great composer.
What do you do?
It's different for everybody. It's something that I feel like the thing that works the best is what you really have to start with. But if you're young, spend all your time practicing. As you get older, that time diminishes. So you want to be able to find the most proficient way to practice for you. And then as you're older, when you have an hour or two rather than 8, then you can do that amount of work in a shorter period of time. You know, that's one of the things. I do always wish I had more time to practice. And sometimes I stay up, if I need to stay up till 3 a.m. working on music, then I'll do that. Or 5 a.m. If I have to not sleep, then I will. Especially if I'm coming in from a trip and I have another trip the next day and I only have 1 day to work on this music for some reason, then I will work on that music for 1 day. And, you know, luckily I have a family that understands that.
does Black American music mean to you?
Black American music? To me, it's a really important part of American culture. And I also feel like it's something that if, like for me, that's like, musically speaking, it's something that I practice. That's something that I do. Culturally, it's something that I've been involved in since I was a kid. But I mean, from an outside view, that's another perspective too. You know, I think that just the term itself brings up a lot of great points that kind of get ignored, overlooked a lot of times.
And how does Latin music, in terms of Black American music, because it was really Dizzy Gillespie and Chano Pozo that exposed this music to the masses. How does Latin music or Latin jazz, how does that formulate how you are?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like it's all come from the same place, and I've been talking to a lot of people about this, about how there's a lot of that's such a big question to tackle, like that part right there, because I want to start one place, but then there's so much more. But for me, like the Afro-Cuban music and Cuban music, but particularly the reason why I call it Afro-Cuban music, like I address my music as Afro-Cuban music. The reason I do that is Machito. I play Machito's music. Machito, or a derivative of Machito's music. And Machito's music his band was Machito and his Afro-Cubans. And that's a big, powerful statement to come in the 40s. That was something no one was accepting at that time. And they made a statement, and they pushed their band. At that time, there was a lot of separation. Those bands couldn't tour in the South. There was separation of bands where they would have all white bands playing these great venues and on TV. And the people that have been making this music happen, Arsenio Rodriguez, which is where you're going to get Machito and Arsenio Rodriguez. These guys were kind of, rightly upset with that. So it's all in there. Like I just encourage somebody to read about that situation. It is so amazing to see how these musicians were thinking, and then to end up in New York City, then collaborating with jazz musicians.
And you gotta also add that this is the first generation.
Yeah.
They came, the 30s and 40s. This is the first generation. So it was kind of, New York is always a melting pot. But musically, we had an organic thing by, like you said, Afro-Cuban and jazz. It was bound to collaborate anyway.
Yep, and they had a lot of Puerto Ricans. So Machito's band had a lot of Puerto Ricans in it. So you had like this big melting pot, especially when you had like the clubs like the China Doll. On one side or one of the streets, and the next street over is a bunch of the other jazz clubs. And so these musicians were meeting each other, which is why you see a lot of these pictures with Charlie Parker, where all the Cuban musicians or Hispanic musicians, and you see Charlie Parker there. And you're like, what is Charlie Parker doing in this picture? That's because he would go to the clubs. They had a lot of tight connections, tight musical connections back in the 40s.
That'll do it again for this very special edition of the Pace Report, reporting live at the 11th Annual Jersey City Jazz Festival here at Exchange Place here in downtown Jersey City, New Jersey. Make sure you guys support Zaccai Curtis and Luques Curtis's brand new record, Cubop Lives, which is now available on Truth Revolution Records, as well as streaming platforms, iTunes, as well as Spotify. For more information on the recordings on Truth Revolution, please visit them online, as well as social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, I'd like to personally congratulate the staff and management at Riverview Jazz for putting on a fantastic festival. This is my second year here, and every time this has just been a ball and a blast. Guys, keep doing what you are doing. For more information on next year's Jazz Festival, please visit them online at riverviewjazz.org. People, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, and leave comments, as well as please follow me on social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.